Hey everyone, how you doing today? We are bringing on our expert. It actually says Kate here. This is Dana, not Kate, or do we have a pseudonym or something?
Yeah, no, we actually switched computers at the company.
Ah,
Two of us, so I think it's still under her name.
so this is Dana, not Kate. I thought we had a middle name going on here. This is funny. So Dana, we're going to talk about property management exhaustion. This is a topic I've never talked about on this channel, but it is real, especially if you're doing self-managed, especially if we're doing out-of-state investing. So when you think property management exhaustion, what jumps out at you? And we'll just bat this around a little bit.
It's the hours, honestly. I think it's that when you go to a job that's a 9 to 5, you can at 5 o'clock put your computer away and you don't have to respond to anything. And it's expected that in the morning you'll go back, your emails will be there, you'll go through everything. With property management, there's liability, especially with repairs of, oh, shoot, there could be a leak. There could be some sort of emergency, and I am the decision maker. I'm the person who needs to be there for them in that case. And so what ends up happening is hours are not set, and you suddenly feel like you're working around the clock. So something comes in on Sunday at 6 p.m., or when you're stressed with your other work or your other job or your personal life, and that suddenly takes over, and you say, oh wait, I need to answer this. You don't have those set hours. For remote investing, you're right, it's even worse because sometimes you have time zone problems where it's 5 a.m. a tenant calls you on a Saturday and you're like, I'm Pacific Standard Time, you're Eastern Standard Time. So that exhaustion is real. If anyone is watching this as a real estate investor, they know it because it's the same thing. No one respects your time. It's quite shocking. And until I went into real estate, I didn't realize that there was no such thing as limitations on hours.
Yeah. Yeah. As somebody who's owned rentals for 20 years now, I think there's lots of things. And again, I've helped people, I talk to them all the time. And sometimes you just have to be a sounding board. When I think property management exhaustion, it's usually with mom and pop, really it really usually gets them on the first 5 or 6, right? It's that first, if you choose to go bigger than that, you've kind of adopted process and procedures, you've adopted expectations, it's in your lease, you have the backups, you have the emergency, right? Blood, fire, or water, right, has their own process versus light switches and stuff like that, or light bulbs. Yeah. So when I talk to, if you get your first or your second, what I would tell you is you need something that's going to help you with processes and procedures, especially if you're out of state. And what I've seen from Himlane thus far, and we'll go in the app again in video number 3, it is going to de-stress the situation. It is going to allow somebody on the East Coast time zone to feel like action is being taken care of, even though you're on West Coast, because the process takes over. Visualization, communication, over communicate. The other thing that I want to tell a new landlord is you need to have a release valve. You need to have a community where you can just, I don't know if you want to call it vent or de-stress, because if you don't, it's like that pressure cooker, it just explodes at some point without a release valve.
Yep. Yep.
So go to your meetups, talk to other landlords. I mean, yeah, you just have to do that. Don't do this by yourself, because again, you're in the people business. You're not in the real estate business. You're in the people business, and people will disappoint you. People will not respect your time. Everything's an emergency to the person whose house doesn't have light in a bedroom or whatever. Yeah, it's realize what you're signing up for. And the sooner you get processes and procedures, the sooner you get those emergency numbers, the sooner you set expectations, the sooner everything isn't one-off. I guess that's really where I'm going. When you're new and you try to do it during your day job, and oh, by the way, sneak to the bathroom to make a phone call, and man, you're burning it. That's not going to last long, in my opinion.
Yep, exactly. And then the other thing I would say with it that I see come up time and time again is also taking things personally, right? It's you versus the tenant with things. And you can set up those processes and say, If there's a bottle can down the garbage disposal, that's your responsibility to the tenant. But then what will end up happening is the tenants themselves will say, well, that's not fair. I cannot believe Michael Zuber told me that that is my responsibility. And there's this personal component to it. So as much as you can take that out and say, no, Great Rift Valley LLC, I'm a managing member and they've decided that this is a charge back to you. It's outlined in the lease or in the welcome documents. Then there's not that personal attachment to it. And that emotional is actually one of the things I see actually get more exhausting.
Yeah.
Is taking things personally and feeling like it's you versus a tenant versus, nope, we have processes, we have procedures, we have this set up. This is why things work the way they do.
Yeah. Again, being a landlord is obviously, I think it is a great thing to do. But if you're a landlord without processes and procedures, expectations, it will be emotionally draining.
Yeah.
Even if you just have one single family home, you may go months with no issues. And then, the rule of three, you'll have three things go bad in a month and it'll just feel like, oh my God, what changed? What happened? Things will, I remember the first time, I think we're like year 4 or year 5, and we probably had, I don't know, 10, maybe 30 units at the time. Somebody's stove got caught fire on Thanksgiving because they did something wrong, right?
Yep.
And it's like, well, we got to go take care of fire. What's the emergency numbers and all of that? And it, because we had process and procedures, it kind of was okay. We got a couple of phone calls and we had to follow up and stuff. But if we hadn't, I could have just imagined how that would have ruined, days,
It
that whole
would ruin
4-day
your
weekend.
Thanksgiving too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have ruined your Thanksgiving. Yeah. And then the other thing about it with it is that there's free things you can set up. It's not like you need these processes and procedures, but when you have 4+ units, like I always tell people, why are you using michaelzuber@gmail.com
Yeah.
and your name as your email address for the tenants? That's fine if email's the best mode of communication for you, but you should have one that's, Great Rift Valley LLC at
Right.
gmail.com. It's free. Same with phone numbers, right? You can have a Google Voice number. I think it's still free for the consumers unless you have a business one, but you can have that with a voicemail of, this is our LLC's hours. It's Monday through Friday, this time to this time. If it's an emergency, and this is what we think of as an emergency, here is what you need to do. Here's how to get in touch with us, because that way you're not feeling like those hours are around the clock. You actually have that. This is when I'm available and this is when I'm not in. And it's a mental exhaustion with it. You don't have emergencies that often in reality, but it's the exhaustion of, what if that's an emergency call? And then you're like, oh, great, it's a sales call of someone trying to sell me something, and it was a new salesperson who didn't understand I was Pacific Standard Time, that type of thing. So it's more of the mental part, I think, that comes with it, and why people don't go from 4 units to 10 units. They jump out and say, you know what, I'm just going to put my money in the stock market instead.
Yeah, exactly. So in the end, folks, realize that when you're signing up for this game, you need process and procedures. You need a place to clearly communicate services and hours. And then the other thing is, once you're in this, it's great, but realize you should get around other landlords and investors. So you just have that way to decompress a little bit, whether it's over a coffee or a lunch or something. Because I promise you, you all have war stories. And sometimes it's better to tell it. And frankly, sometimes it's better to listen to others because you realize you don't have it that bad.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Exactly.
Thank you, Dana. This was a great topic. Appreciate it.
And thanks for having me.
Yep.